All right, let's go over the answers for the week 4 quiz for you. I'll share this with you, and let me jump over to the this page here, and we'll check it out. Okay. Um, Question 1. Let me see. Here we go. Multiple choice questions. There we go. From my interview with Alan Gerard, he recommended all of the following as goals for the National Weather Service, except he recommended regionalization with specialists to deal with radar, that sort of thing. So he recommended A. He recommended continued progress toward the use of cloud computing to facilitate better forecasting. He recommended that. C. Spend less time providing impact-based weather briefings and more time on routine forecasting. He did not recommend that. And D, increase use of AI tools to streamline workplace efficiencies. He did recommend that. So C is the answer there. Question 2. Which of the following is suggested by social science researchers as to how to improve communications from the National Weather Service to their partners and the public during severe weather? And the answer is all of the above are correct. Use WAFs, try to use more of the warn on forecast system we talked about in week 3, expand the use of probabilities, grow the use of impact-based warnings, obviously, so all of the above are correct. Question 3, as reported earlier this year in that Bloomberg piece, I think that was quoted from Alan Gerard, we talked about that, proposed changes within the structure of NOAA could include the merger of which agencies, and the answer is the Climate Prediction Center would be consolidated into the Weather Prediction Center. Question 4, important takeaways from significant flash flood events include all of the following except D. Rapidly developing urgent flash flood events typically occur over large areas. They don't. They occur over small areas and with ample communications in advance. Not true. Usually it's very short, fused information. People have to react quickly in those situations. Other answers are all true. Okay. Question 5, which is not true about numerical weather predictions models? And the answer is D. All right. I did mention the National Blend of Models is increasing use, which is true. That's increasingly being used. That's a consensus model. But D is the answer that is not true. Conventional weather models combined with AI are being researched but not really used now. That's not true. They are being used, and I showed that on the Pivotal Weather website. Question 6. The ideal timeline for the flow of alerts involving the Weather Prediction Center and the Weather Service offices and communications for flash flooding events would be, and the answer would be B, excessive rainfall outlooks first from WPC, the big outlooks talked about in the case study, then flood advisories and watches from the Weather Service, and then flash flood warnings would be the highest urgency of warning, of information alert. Question 7. Hurricane Awareness Week is one way the National Weather Service increases public awareness of the hazards related to high-impact weather events. Examples of the communication strategies in these awareness weeks include all of the above. Question 8. All of you got that right. Question 8. Which weather situation would trigger a text alert for the campus from the university's Emergency Operations Office? Some of you missed this one. Now, the answer is B, flash flooding occurring on campus perimeter roads. Severe thunderstorm warning issued by the Weather Service for Spotsylvania County. Spotsylvania is too far away for a warning to trigger an alert for the campus here in the city of Richmond, closer to Southside, closer to the James River. The question, and a couple of you had, when you did your quiz earlier, I had Hanover County in here as the question answer, and that was just close enough that it could have been considered worthy of an alert. So that was changed to Spotsylvania. So the 90% of you saw this version of the quiz question here. So again, adjustments were made if you saw the other version where I said Hanover. Bottom line is the answer is B, flash flood occurring on campus perimeter roads. Okay. Question 9, when communicating weather information, the senders and media need to make sure the messaging is all of the above. Okay, that's pretty easy. Question 10, the audience for direct information sharing by the Weather Service, by the NWS Emergency Response Specialist, remember that's Katie Carter's position, she did that interview for us, would include stakeholders such as, now if you watch the whole interview, she mentioned that she does not deal with local the mayor's office or any local people like that. She deals with statewide offices. So the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, the governor's office, those levels of offices that cover the entire Commonwealth, not the local offices. Local offices are handled by the Weather Service directly. They do their own briefings with the mayor and city and community managers in the counties. So the answer is E, both B and C only. Commonwealth of Virginia emergency managers, and then the governor's office and their liaisons. But A is not included. Okay, so and that's a little confusing, but it's in her interview. She talks about it, and there's a clarification there. There is a differentiation. Her position does not directly communicate briefings with community leaders, such as the mayor's office or county managers. Okay, so it's mainly the Commonwealth. All right, and there's another question kind of along that line as well below. Question 11, which is not true about the national blend of models? C, it's used for short-range time periods such as the next 72 hours, is not planned. It actually is planned. Eventually, I believe I had in a PowerPoint I was talking about this. The blend of models is now used for days 4 through 7 of the standard 7-day NWS forecast. And the plan is to expand it to cover days 1 through 3 as well. All right, that'll eventually happen. And the blend of models is basically that consensus blend of lots of different models from the U.S. and other international computer models, and they come up with a solution that is better as a consensus than an individual model would be. Question 12, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, VDEM, considers social media as an essential lifeline to communicate impactful weather information. Their best practices when posting include the following: create short, clear, actionable messages, obviously. Update posts frequently. Yes. Limit use of explanatory graphics. No. They want to use more graphics and visual information. Okay, so it's the opposite of that. So the answer is A and B only. E. Question 13. The primary role of the newly formed position of emergency response specialist with the NWS is to C, be the liaison between the NWS and state emergency operations partners to assist in making critical storm-related decisions for preparedness, response, and recovery. All right, they don't approve any wording from the meteorologists in the office. They don't provide impact-based warning decision support for local governments. Remember, I just mentioned the local weather service office directly does the briefings for local governments. So the answer is C. All right. Question 14, regarding effective messaging of vital information, key considerations top of mind by response specialists and other senders include all the following except B, use of often heard weather jargon will help with comprehension. They actually recommend the opposite. Try to avoid jargon, try to avoid buzzwords when possible. Now, and this is basically, if jargon is really familiar and is actually a scientific word that people understand, there could be exceptions to that. And, so again, it's kind of a tough call because jargon is recommended not to be used by the senders, especially the emergency response specialists. They are recommending in their PowerPoints and stuff not to use jargon or a buzzword. So again, the answer is the exception will be B out of all those answers. 15, the purpose of the NWS Skywarn program is to B, build a network of trained volunteers to report ground truth and severe weather occurs. So they're not employees of the Weather Service, okay? They don't evaluate the computer models. They don't look at the radar to determine best ways to use the radar to determine storm severity. The Weather Service radar specialists do that. And they don't staff local Weather Service offices, okay, as specialists. They are volunteers out there on the ground reporting what's happening with the weather. So the answer is B. Question 16. One of the top standards for effective communications by emergency managers is the power of the first message, meaning both A and B. Okay, C is not true. They striving to be the first to issue public statements on severe weather is not true. The Weather Service typically does that. So The answers are both A and B. Question 17. During a football game, it talks about a storm several miles away, appears to be tracking in the direction of the school. The University Emergency Operations Team would do the following. Immediately send out text alerts. No. Maribel Street talked about this in our video and the interview. Notify, the best answer is B, notify school and athletic department personnel and public safety officers to alert them that the protective actions may be needed, okay? And they wouldn't just continue to monitor the radar until a threat appears more imminent. They would actually take the action first, as mentioned in B, okay? Considering there is a potential risk of a storm hitting the area. So the next question, 18. Rank in order, most to least, the lead time you would have to react after seeing a warning for each type of weather. And the answer is D, winter storm warning, then a severe thunderstorm warning, then flash flooding. We talk about flash flooding as the most imminent threat that happens with the quickest, less time frame to respond. 19, VDEM best practices in communicating vital information includes these core components to assure public trust in response to their messaging. Always communicate accurately, rapidly, and calmly. Yes, top of mind should be that the first message shared often shapes public reaction. Yes, conveying empathy is important. Yes, D, all of the above. Yes, all. D is the correct answer. And finally, question 20. What similarities do the National Weather Service initiatives Skywarn and iPing share? And it is E, A and B only. It is not C. A and B, it's a volunteer sharing information about ground truth, storm information. By sharing that information, they can help forecasters make real-time decisions on issuing alerts. Yes. But special training is required for Skywarn, but it is not required for iPing. So that is the difference between those in terms of training. So that's it. I just wanted to share the answers with you for the week 4 quiz and hope that kind of clarifies all of those questions and answers for you. Thanks.